Welcome back, everyone. We're having a smoky evening, smoky week in Vancouver. He's Young Fun. I'm Aaron. We are Zappy speaking, and we're here tonight to listen to Joe Biden fire some shots at Donald Trump, particularly around climate change. And of course, as those of you in the Western United States and Western Canada know, everything's gotten all hot up in here because of the fires in California. We've got enough smoke that I can't ride my bike, and I'm starting to feel a little fat. With that said, let's take a quick look at this video. We're going to react to it, pause it when we need to, give our interpretations on if Joe Biden is really giving all he's got in a speech or if he's just kind of letting it slide by and phoning it in. Of course, we're going to use our years of experience through Toastmasters and public speaking to give our version, our vision, our thoughts on exactly how well he does and the things we can learn from, or perhaps the things we can improve on. Without further ado, let's jump in and take a look at Joe Biden calls Trump a climate arsonist in speech addressing climate change from NBC News. Let's take a quick look.
Jill and I continued, as I suspect all of you do, is pray for everyone in California, Oregon, and Washington, and across the West as these devastating wildfires rage on, just as we hold them in our hearts, those who have faced the hurricanes, tropical storms off our coast of Florida, North Carolina, or like parts of New Orleans that in fact have just been issued an emergency evacuation order for Hurricane Sally.
Okay, I want to address one thing really quickly that is here, so I'm just going to stop sharing this for a second. I want you to think about what he's doing with his hands. You'll notice he was moving around behind the podium, and one benefit of a podium is you can do lots of things behind it and people won't see it. But I find myself, when he looks down, he brings his hand down, he looks down something at his side, I actually start focusing on where he's looking. And it's something to pay attention to when you're a speaker. If you look somewhere, your audience is liable to follow where you're looking. So I think, in a sense, he loses points to me because he looks away. And I know there's times we have to do something, something falls out of our pocket, something's bothering us, we have to address it, but we need to do our best to keep our eyes on our audience. Otherwise, our audience will follow our eyes, and to a lesser extent, our hands as well. So that's something I just wanted to comment on before we got too far in, because it really caught my attention, actually. I'm a very visual person, so it caught my attention.
Exactly. Yeah, for this part speech, it has very interesting content when you think about it. One side of the US, West Coast, is on fire. The other side, the East Coast, is flooded. So it's a really huge difference of fire and water, literally. And that part of anime is totally missed in Joe's speech. And from the beginning of the video, I have no idea he will compare fire with flood at all. He just jumped right in and say, oh, there's fire in these three places of US. And all of a sudden, he's, oh, there's a flood coming in, by the way. And the whole speech can have done way better to make a way bigger impact, right? You think about it. You say, oh, this whole place is attacked by fire and water. Half of the coast is all on fire, the other half is flooded. What do you think of that engagement? That'd be better, not just moving hands around randomly. So he could have done a way better job.
Yeah,
just for that little bit.
That would have been really interesting juxtaposition. Half the country's on fire, half the country's underwater, and we're stuck somewhere in the middle trying to solve the problem. That would have been a nice way of phrasing the speech and framing it, although maybe it would have come across as too, I don't know, fancy or something like that. Maybe he was going for down to earth. But I like that idea. That's interesting. All right, let's keep on going here.
Floods and droughts across the Midwest, the fury of climate change everywhere, all this year and right now. Donald Trump's climate denial may not have caused these fires and record floods and record hurricanes, but if he gets a second term, these hellish events will continue to become more common, more devastating, and more deadly. Meanwhile, Donald Trump warns that integration is threatening our suburbs. It's ridiculous. But you know what is actually threatening our suburbs? Wildfires are burning the suburbs in the West. Floods are wiping out suburban neighborhoods in the Midwest. Hurricanes are imperiling suburban life along our coast.
That was a really weird use of emphasis.
Yeah,
Like when he says the word deadly a minute ago, he says deadly with no emotion in his voice. Deadly fires. Doesn't sound that deadly to me. If I see something's deadly, it's got to be deadly. Like there are deadly fires. You've got to say a
yeah,
word to show its meaning. And he seemed really quiet. I think that was a mic issue at first, but he seemed really quiet. And then when he starts talking about the hurricanes, it's like he remembered to speak louder. So he starts going. He's just and hurricanes, and he starts yelling about it. So that was a weird transition. I think that volume would have been good if he had more naturally and consistently worked his way into it, and it would have matched the content better. Because what I always strive for is what we can call content consistent delivery. If my content says
exactly.
I'm happy, then I act happy. If my content says it's deadly, then I act like something's deadly and dangerous. And I don't think he did that until he hit a certain part and then he remembered what he was talking about almost. I don't know. I think he could have done that better. I do think he was using his hands, which I like. He was using his hands more. He wasn't fiddling with them behind the podium, so he improved on that. And I do like that he did remember to put his voice in, but I think it should have been a smoother transition to give us content consistent delivery.
Yeah, that was very interesting part of speech. So since everyone comment on this element speech, I want to analyze a bit deeper in the whole reason, the whole logic behind it. It's weird. His point, the purpose of speech is really clear. He want to win the suburb voters. We all know that decides who come out on the top on November. But then his delivery, his way to convince those voters is a bit unnatural. One great example, he talked about flood, and he talked about flood in the mid-east of suburb. I do not know how flood can reach the middle west or mid-east somewhere in a suburb. Like I'm not sure how that means. Maybe I might misunderstand. Um, so what I try to get to that, it is very important to have a purpose of speech. There's nothing wrong if you want to win the voters in the suburb. That's very important population to win over. Mm-hmm. But then doing this and really try to pull parts together to force them together in a puzzle, that is not a great content. The second part is about the Trump re-election and if the climate gonna get worse or not. It's not a causative relationship of Trump get re-elected and then the climate will get worse. It's the climate will get worse regardless if he get re-elected or not. Then what's matter is if we're gonna take a stand and take action afterwards to slow down the process. So that is important, to slow down the process. It's not any government in the future to cause it. The thing caused it happened in the past. What come down in the future is a mitigation practice. I think if he make that point clear, it will be more convincing for me. I don't know how other people feel about that.
That might be because of your background in science, though, because I think I actually liked the simplification of it in a sense. Because
yeah, you can be.
If he said to us, if Donald Trump is reelected, climate change will not be slowed down as much as if I'm elected. That would have been a lot of language, right? That would have been a lot of words to throw at someone, and it's not going to be as punchy. So in a sense, he's got a balance between the facts and the punch. And I do get what you're saying. He probably could have balanced it better, but I think that he had to pick something that people would relate to quickly. I will stop climate change, he will make it worse, is more relatable, or easier, not relatable, easier to understand than I will slow climate change more than he will.
Yeah, I would think that would be a better word if he say that. I would have a problem. But he worded in a way almost like Trump will cause more severe climate change. He might if he continue some from the policy. But the climate change is not caused by Trump. At this moment, it's caused by past 20, 30 years.
By the mistakes of the past.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep on going. We'll see if we have any other stuff. We've been very mean so far. We'll see if we can find some nice stuff too.
We have 4 more years of Trump's climate denial. How many suburbs will be burned in wildfires? How many suburban neighborhoods will have been flooded out? How many suburbs will have been blown away in superstorms? If you give a climate arsonist 4 more years in the White House, why would anyone be surprised if we have more America ablaze? If you give a climate denier 4 more years in the White House, why would anyone be surprised when more of America is underwater? We need a president who respects science, who understands that the damage from climate change is already here. Unless we take urgent action, it will soon be more catastrophic.
Interesting.
Yeah, I actually liked something to the parallelism of if you put a climate blank in office, we shouldn't be surprised when X happens. And he repeated that twice, and each time he said it with more intensity. I thought that worked well because it's using that repeated sentence structure, repeated, I guess, paragraph structure to end up intensifying the statement that he's making. So I thought that was well done. I quite liked that. And he also then transitioned to a softer voice to get his message across that he wants something done, which was well done. So a soft voice can sound like it's confiding or pleading, and it's a voice that's like, look, I'm telling you because I need to speak to you. It becomes more personal. So I thought he actually did that well, as much as he did do some other things I really didn't like. One thing I'll just comment on that I know isn't his fault that bothers me is he's squinting the whole time. And I'm guessing the sun is in front of him.
Yeah, use auto.
I feel like they should, if it's possible, they should turn the stage somewhere else so he's not squinting like that. Because the whole time he's sitting there doing this, and this is not a flattering look for a speaker, right? We don't normally trust it. Like, it doesn't feel right when a speaker's just like, yeah, he's a climate arsonist. It seems too weird. And that's not Joe Biden's fault, but I feel like whoever set up the stage, like either put him with the sun to either left or right. You don't want the sun behind him because then he's just blacked out, but you want the sun left or right, in my opinion. Same thing with lighting in a room. You want the lighting kind of off to the side, so you're not staring into a light, but also so it's not coming from behind you and making it look like you're some shady figure or some angelic figure with light behind you and no face. But yeah, that's my general reaction.
Yeah, the last part of speech is way better than the beforehand. I'm surprised about that sudden transition like that. I guess because his job, he really know how to home in to call for action to move people to have a movement with him. So this last part of 30 seconds maybe, I estimate, is call for action. And he's really good at that, apparently. Besides what everyone said, he built up the energy and for the first part of calling for action, bring people with them. And the second part, he's like, well, are you be surprised? Are you be surprised? And are you be surprised? These 3 questions like to re-emphasize the parallel from the beginning. So that is actually, I would say that is the whole highlight of this whole speech. Now I keep thinking about why he's rooting back to the suburb voter here. The subject here, it is what affects a voter. So the counter here is quite smart. I know fire for sure. Water and flood in some places, it does too. But water flood affects some coastal city as well. But that is a good opportunity, which is weird, use a climate crisis as an opportunity to form a personal political game. But he played the timing right timing, right content to the key group of voter. I think that's what Joe Biden wanted to get to in his speech. He want to move from the suburban people and to get a vote. And with all due respect from me to the suburban people, I know they're hardworking group people, but some of them don't really believe in climate change. So try to use all these incidents happen in their life to make them realize, oh, all of a sudden, wow, it's not that far away. It's not in Arctic. It's not the ice sheet melting. It's in my backyard. It's on fire. I think that is a great timing for this message come across.
It's not just in Canada, it's in the States too. It's not just Canadian.
It's a global.
Blaze or sunk in the floods. Yeah, I mean, I think it was that conclusion really turned it around. In general, there are a lot of things that could be worked on. One thing, as we mentioned before, about like the delivery is watch where your eyes are, and because your audience is going to be following that. If you're drawing your attention somewhere, your audience's attention is going to go with it. So keep that in mind when you're speaking. Think about making your content consistent with your delivery. If it's not, you're going to really struggle to have the audience feel like you're being authentic, because when you speak, when you say, I'm angry, or I'm really angry right now, it doesn't really make sense for your audience. So we need it to be consistent. You say, I'm angry right now, I'm really pissed off, right? That seems more consistent. So those are kind of my key takeaways here. You want to add anything, Yangfan, before we wrap this up?
I think that's great key takeaway. There's nothing more to add.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for watching. Please let us know if you have any requests for videos. Thank you very much for watching. We'll have an excellent day. I'm Aaron. That's Yangfan. Zappy speaking. Stay fishy out there.